Hi, I'm Venus O'Hara. I make content about holistic self-love. And today is day 5 of Vlogmas. Thank you to everyone who's been leaving comments. I haven't had a chance to reply to all of them yet, but I definitely will. So keep them coming in. Anyway, I wanted to make a video today about the full moon. It is the full moon in Gemini, and depending on where you are in the world, it's between yesterday, last night, and tonight. And I've been observing the lunar cycle for quite some time now. And I wanted to share with you my own full moon rituals and what I do to honor the full moon and how I got into observing lunar cycles. So several years ago, I lived in a penthouse apartment, and I really became more aware of lunar cycles because I was so close to the sky, being in a penthouse apartment with no curtains, just some blinds. And some nights the moon was so radiant, so luminous, I would sleep with the blinds open and have my whole bedroom flooded with moonlight. And it was so beautiful. I felt like I was being caressed by this celestial energy, and it was beautiful. In parallel to that, I got into crystals as well. And the first crystal I ever had was a rose quartz wand. And if you know anything about crystals, people say that they are good for energy healing. And rose quartz in particular represents love and the heart chakra. And it was so interesting because at that time of my life, I started to attract a lot of love into my life. Not necessarily romantic love, but it was more like self-love, and then family love and friend love and all this kind of thing, and universal love, interestingly, this got me very interested in crystals in general. And every time I had, let's say, a particular desire or even an obstacle in my life, I would go to a crystal shop and pick up a crystal. It's almost like having a crystal prescription. And then with every crystal I bought, I would do some investigation about how to cleanse it, how to charge it. And that's when I started to I started to put my crystals outside in the full moon to charge them with the energy of the full moon. So very gradually, over time, my lunar rituals started to become more and more elaborate. Then I would incorporate some cacao in it as well. So I started to make myself some cacao, and I've heard that cacao is a heart opener. I don't really feel it as a heart opener. Really, there's nothing. I think I always have an open heart, or I'm very connected to my emotions. So I don't feel that that I am more connected when I have cacao. Although lots of people do say that's what it's like for them. But for me, it's more about taking the time to have some awareness of where my emotions are and the lunar energy in general. But they say that the lunar energy is all about letting go. So thinking about what do you need to let go of in your life? What no longer serves? And then over time, when I moved to this apartment, I started to do some lunar circles with some friends. And we did this really cool thing called letting go lists. And we would all write our lists of all the things that we need to let go of. Things could be, limiting beliefs, or a certain relationship, or a certain dynamic that's not really serving you. Sometimes we would go around in a circle and share what we were going to let go of, and it became kind of like a really beautiful sharing circle. It was almost like therapy, and it was really nice to hold space for all of these different situations. But at the same time, I stopped being inspired by that because over time, I just feel very concerned about discretion, and I felt that I wasn't convinced about how safe my secrets were in certain circles. And I think that's really a valid point to make in any sharing circles. Often in these types of events, people make a pact where nothing goes out of this circle, but most people are not able to keep a secret. It's like, don't tell anyone but. And it started to feel unsafe for me to actually really open up about what my biggest concerns were over the previous lunar cycle and what I wanted to let go of. So another way to kind of combat that and still keep the magic of the circle was to actually write the list of letting go, not share it, and then go out on the street and burn the list and really let go of it. Or you can rip it up as well. I don't really particularly like fire unless I'm outside with other people. But that was a really kind of symbolic way to release all of those things that you're holding back for the moon. So over time, this kind of group that I was in actually kind of disintegrated naturally. It wasn't anything dramatic. It just stopped it was really difficult to all be available, on the same day, because that's always quite hard in groups. So lately I'm just doing my own kind of solo lunar rituals, and to honor the full moon, I put my crystals outside, I have some cacao, I listen to some full moon music, and I think about what am I letting go of. And also something I've really enjoyed is exploring this book called Lunar Living, and it's a really cool book all about the different moons. I just opened it on the page today. That's so incredible. So I started to so I just opened it on this page, and this is the full moon in Gemini, which is today. So in this book, you can actually look up all the different moons, because each moon represents a different star sign. For example, the new moon, which is when there's no moon in the sky, that is usually the time of, let's say, the astrological sign. So the last one, I don't know when it is. But anyway, so now we're in Gemini for the full moon, and it's a kind of Sagittarius time now. So this is, I think this moon is one of the last in the year, depending on the year. But yeah, Gemini is also my star sign. So in this book, you have a whole thing about what the Gemini moon represents, different keywords, and then some kind of suggested rituals and crystals and all of that. And it's kind of cool to have a different ritual every month if you're into the lunar cycle. This also has new moons in it, and it just talks about different times of the lunar cycle and what they represent for, let's say, manifestation. I used to be really into the full moon, but I am still into the full moon. But then when I started to learn a bit more about the new moon, that's kind of a bit more exciting for me, because it's about new intentions. And I find working with lunar cycles is more empowering than, let's say, doing New Year's resolutions. Because New Year's resolutions, to actually set an intention for the whole year, a lot of people have these great ideas about, goals for the year, and that's great, but often I think there's some statistic that by February a lot of people have kind of forgotten about them. But if you're doing something every lunar cycle, every month, it seems to be more attainable. And then, if you get to the next full moon, you haven't quite made it, or you've got some challenges, then you kind of honor it by releasing them in the full moon, if that makes any sense. So if you're interested in the lunar cycles, then check this out. And yes, it's a bit woo-woo, it's a bit witchy, but the moon, does influence so many things in the world, like the tides, and even over time, people have been using lunar cycles to know when to plant seeds and harvest crops, etc. So it's something that's kind of quite profound. So yeah, Lunar Living is something that I recommend. This book is by Kirsty Gallagher, and it's working with the magic of the moon cycles. Yay! So Gemini, I'm a Gemini, so tonight is my moon. Well, actually, I did my ritual last night, which I did my cacao meditation, put my crystals out, and tonight I'm going to meet with some witchy friends. I'm going to do some more rituals, which I don't really know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and with oracle cards and things like that, and I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, so if you are observing lunar cycles, let me know. And before I end this, I want to also let you know that my podcast, the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast, follows a lunar cycle, a lunar calendar as well. So I publish sexuality episodes on full moons. I'm a bit late with this one. this episode that's supposed to be today will be out on Monday. And then on the other phases, on the new moon, I talk about spirituality, some personal development, first quarter as well, and then the third quarter moon I do a guided visualization. So it's interesting because when I have my podcast guests, I have to look at the lunar calendar to know actually when to publish, and I make sure it's the actual time of the moon, because there is a time when it's the strongest energy. So I make sure my podcast comes out at that moment for that maximum lunar power. Yay! So that is it. Anyway, check out my podcast as well if you're interested in any of my more kind of holistic content and my voice. A lot of people are complimenting me on my voice, which is very sweet. But if you want to hear some more of my voice, then I have meditations as well. I'm going to leave a link below in the description for my meditations, which are on Insight Timer and my podcast as well. So that is the Gemini full moon. I'm going to be letting go of a lot of things that don't serve me anymore tonight and enjoying the rituals with my witchy friends. And that's it. Ooh, someone's calling me. I really hate these random phone numbers. It's so annoying. And I keep blocking them and then there's more. Anyway, thank God it's not ruined the recording. Anyway, that is it for today. And I'll be back tomorrow with some more Vlogmas. And I'll also be answering your comments. So thank you so much to everyone who's been watching and leaving comments. Mwah! Happy full moon.